Welcome to an audiobook entitled Parish Management and Operations. The Buck Stops Here. Narrated by Catholic author Michael Brinda. We hope you enjoy the segment and find it useful in your ministerial work.
Chapter 50. But I'm trying my best. Execution is what the PMO administrator monitors and measures. Superior is the standard of measurement for all execution. And this standard must be installed and then maintained organically by the correct culture, but never literally in some ham-fisted, in-your-face efforts. Note that once the culture is properly built, a well-run PMO operation is a smooth-running and self-sustaining operation. People now intrinsically know their jobs and do their jobs as you have defined their jobs. It is truly a beautiful thing to be a part of. The hard part is the journey to reaching this thing of beauty. Effort without accomplishment of the assigned task is at best the definition of mediocrity, at worst, abject failure. As the PMO administrator, I can't tell someone seeking PMO services that even though we failed to serve them because we failed to execute, hey, look on the bright side, we gained organizational experience, and I learned more about our further need for programmatic cohesion by utterly failing you, my dear parishioner. Thanks so much for helping us learn on the job at your expense, and better luck next time if we ever see you again. How does that sound? If for any reason the everybody gets a ribbon rationalization attitude is allowed to become your job performance standard of execution, either actively or passively, then as a PMO administrator, mediocrity or worse will be your lot, and you don't need to listen to this book to be mediocre. Drucker didn't mince his words when he said, an effective nonprofit manager must try to get more out of the people he or she has, and that's decided by the basic people decisions, whom we hire and whom we fire, where we place people and whom we promote. The quality of these human decisions largely determines whether the organization is being run seriously, whether its mission, its values, and its objectives are real and meaningful to people rather than just public relations and rhetoric. End quote. It can't be stated any better than the above by Peter Drucker. I would re-listen to this statement if I were you, and then reflect on what you will find when the person at the top of any organizational chart in any enterprise cannot execute in a superior manner. What does that organization most commonly deliver? Exactly what Drucker stated. Nothing meaningful, just pro forma public relations and rhetoric. Now we are drilling down to the core reality of what happens when you are on the job and switch from your friend hat to wearing the PMO administrator hat. It's about attaining superior execution from those who report to you. It's not about happy meals, blue stars, mutual backslapping, ribbons just for showing up, or trying your best. If you allow your PMO workplace to permeate an anything we do is acceptable to the boss as long as we try attitude, you have just created a permanent refuge for mediocrity. You have institutionalized mediocrity as your norm. As the PMO administrator, you might as well not just show up for work, because even if you do, what does it really matter? What difference does it make? People don't need a boss to be mediocre. Mediocrity is something that is perfectly achievable without your supervision. And yes, trying your best does have a place in the correct culture. It will earn you a second chance to get things right, but not infinite chances. A quote from Thomas Edison, "Vision without execution is delusion." End quote. If superior execution is not a product of your PMO culture, and not the standard you are known to use to measure employee and volunteer performance, what is the point of having a well-crafted parish mission statement or statement of culture, or superior strategic plan, or a toolbox full of PMO tools at your disposal. Why bother with any of that if you are not going to commit yourself to achieving superior execution? All of this and more are rendered into mere window dressing, and who needs more window dressing? We need superior execution. All things being equal, the difference between mediocrity and superior service is ultimately found in the quality of execution. And the greatest single influence on achieving superior execution by paid staff and volunteers? Your PMO culture, which you set and maintain as the PMO administrator. As a PMO administrator, you might find the desk sign of President Harry S. Truman helpful, and from where this book draws part of its name, the buck stops here. Truman was the man solely responsible for granting permission to drop 2 atomic bombs on Japan. Clearly a most profound and sobering expression of the execution buck stopped with Truman. Personally, the wisdom contained within Truman's desk plaque moved me many years ago, and his same words have also sat as a plaque on my own desk ever since. Why? Because life is not an academic exercise. Life does not issue letter grades. We are not here just to check boxes or go through the motions of life. Darkness feeds on apathy. Life demands that those who choose to serve others be able to execute and execute in a superior manner. Otherwise, the people they are meant to serve are not served, or at least not served as they deserve to be. There is nothing Christ-like in conscious and deliberately poor execution. If you are aware of mediocre to poor execution, you have a duty as a PMO administrator to immediately and correctly address the situation. If you don't want to fight fires, don't be a fireman. If you can't or won't do all the tasks of a PMO administrator, don't put your name in the top box on the organizational chart. What you do after listening to this book is your business and entirely up to you. But as for me, I accept the truth and wisdom that employee and volunteer good intentions never made a single payroll. I don't praise, even faintly, abject failure in job performance. Why would I? How is disingenuous praise helpful to the poor performer or the culture of the organization? However, I do recognize that the failure of someone who reports to me is simultaneously somehow a failure also on my part. I need to face the mirror too. Why? Because somewhere along the line, something on my watch had to also go wrong for failure to execute to occur. As the PMO administrator, I must also own that failure to execute and do what is necessary to ensure it does not happen again. A failure to execute by someone who reports to me is more than just cause, more than enough reason for me to also look in the mirror and honestly assess myself. But what I cannot do and will not do is embrace the everybody gets a ribbon school of management to avoid confronting the person who has directly failed to execute. To do so would be an abdication of a part of my duty as a PMO administrator, and I will not be an effective administrator if I choose this path. Chapter 51. The Art of Achieving Superior Execution. First, a quote from Yo-Yo Ma. The role of the musician is to go from concept to full execution. Put another way, it's to go from understanding the content of something to really learning how to communicate it and make sure it's well received and lives in somebody else. End quote. What the PMO administrator wants to achieve in others is precisely what Yo-Yo Ma stated. We want to communicate a variety of subjects to paid staff or volunteers such that our message is well received by the receiver and they fully execute in a superior manner everything we have communicated to them. Sounds simple enough, You teach, the receiver learns, we move on. So why is this task so often difficult, and what can we do to improve our chances of achieving our goal of superior execution? First, you must enable reaching the goal. What goal? How? The goal is to always deliver every PMO service to your community in a superior way. Establishing the correct culture initially enables reaching the goal. This is also your publicly stated goal. Stated where? In the enhanced language of your mission statement. Not mediocre service, not good service, not, well, something is better than nothing, take whatever you get service. Superior service to everyone, all the time, is the publicly stated goal. Our public mission statement enabled our statement of culture to say this is so, but you must make it so through superior execution. Putting policy words on paper is not the same thing, indeed not even remotely close to actual execution. So many so-called managers think their work is done when they send a perfectly crafted email or issue step-by-step instructions to be followed by subordinates. This thinking is deeply flawed because in actuality your work just started. Now, why is this task of execution so difficult, and how can we improve our chances of achieving our goal? The quickest way to address this question is by investigating the answer to another question. Why do companies use basic robots? We are not speaking here of artificial intelligence robots. But why do companies use basic robots to replace human beings whenever possible? Let us inventory and count the ways. Because the first order of business is for you to fully recognize the many layers of complexity and all the challenges associated with achieving superior execution. The following list of 10 points is not meant to be read as any general advocacy for robots, much less robots that can perform PMO functions. However, invoking mental imagery of a robot working in PMO can be useful and revealing. How so? In highlighting the relentlessly perfect execution of a robot, by comparison, we will one by one expose the execution weaknesses of mistake-prone employees and volunteers. In this manner, we will shine a spotlight on the challenges facing the PMO administrator attempting to deliver superior PMO. So as you listen to these 10 points, stop and consider at each one that you must achieve everything specified in a superior manner, but through an eminently fallible human PMO employee or volunteer. It is at this point the scope of your superior execution challenge will be revealed. Regarding a robot, number 1, you can electronically transfer the how and why to perform tasks to a robot, and also electronically transfer instructions from robot to robot with 100% fidelity. Absolutely nothing is lost or misunderstood in this instructional or information transfer process. If anything is lost or corrupted during the transfer, you would automatically and immediately be notified, allowing you to restart the transfer process and repeat it until it is completed with 100% accuracy. Indeed, the transfer restart would likely occur on its own. Number 2, the intelligence level, capacity, and capabilities of each robot are stable and known in advance. Number 3, should you need to upgrade, a robot is easier to upgrade because the upgrade process is formulaic, mechanical, known, and predictable. Number 4, a robot does not have an emotional component. Number 5, a robot cannot lie, cheat, steal, or otherwise of its own accord act in an immoral or unethical manner. Number 6, robots will without complaint of boredom complete repetitive and mundane tasks. Number 7, A robot never needs work breaks, pregnancy or sick leave, ever-escalating vacation time, holiday breaks, salary increases, bonuses, rewards, insurance, and the like. To ensure constant uptime, preventative maintenance, in other words adjustments and parts replacements and so forth, can be done on a robot during non-working hours. Number 8. Robots lend unsurpassed accuracy and precision to their work product. This accuracy and precision leads to less waste, zero or nearly zero mistakes, and lower cost. Number 9. Robots will never sue you. Number 10. Robots are expendable. They can perform dangerous tasks, work with dangerous ingredients, and lift heavy loads. Now a quote from Peter Drucker. To allow non-performers to stay on means letting down both the organization and the cause. End quote. Now, to more clearly understand our challenge in achieving superior execution from all those who report to us as PMO administrators, let us examine each of the above points from our PMO administrator perspective. Number 1, you can electronically transfer knowledge of how to perform tasks to a robot and also from robot to robot with 100% fidelity. Absolutely nothing is lost or misunderstood in this instructional or information transfer process. If anything is lost or corrupted during the transfer, you will be immediately notified, allowing you to restart the transfer process and repeat it until it is completed with 100% accuracy. Indeed, the transfer restart would likely occur on its own. The PMO administrator challenges to achieving superior execution. The PMO administrator must personally train, or at least oversee the training of employees and volunteers who report to them. This training is provided through the lens of an established and correct culture. Otherwise, you are wasting your time. Also, if the training is merely perfunctory or superficial, you are wasting your time. Employee and volunteer training is not something you do just to check a box marked completed. Superior execution, and therefore superior results, will forever elude the PMO administrator who in any way shortchanges employee and volunteer training. While training is a mandatory step toward achieving superior execution, it is at the very least time-consuming at the start, and can also be arduous and tedious depending upon the pre-existing skill set and level of knowledge within those you are training. Point number 2, the intelligence level and capabilities of a robot are stable and known in advance. The PMO administrator challenges to achieving superior execution. Upon your arrival at your assigned location, recognize you will inherit paid and volunteer PMO personnel. Who are they? What do they actually know about their job? What do they think they know but don't? What are they capable of? How well do they currently perform their job? There is no operations manual you can read that will answer the above questions. Further note that it is likely one or more of the personnel you inherit will be unable or unwilling to learn or perform their job to your standards. Now what? Do you accept mediocrity? Point 3. Should you need to upgrade, a robot is easier to upgrade because the upgrade process is formulaic, mechanical, known, and predictable. The PMO administrator challenges to achieving superior execution. When people who report to you have been trained and cannot or will not do their job according to your standards as set by the correct culture, you have the following options available to you. A. Live with them and do nothing. Or B. Find them a different job they can handle. Or C. Dismiss them. Clearly, why listen to this book if your choice in this situation is to live with them and do nothing? And it is unlikely you will find an open but different job for someone in this situation either. This leaves us with option C, dismiss them. And it is precisely at this point the PMO administrators determine their own fate. Will you run PMO or will PMO run you? If you are unwilling or unable to dismiss either paid or volunteer personnel who, after sufficient training, still fail to do their job, I guarantee you PMO will run you, and this aspect of your day, every day, will not be a happy or joy-filled experience. In truth, if this is your choice, you should vacate the position of PMO administrator as soon as possible. Why? Because the worst choice you can make is to present everyone with the illusion that you are a PMO boss, that there is, in fact, a PMO boss, when in fact there is no boss. At least when the position is presented on the organizational chart as clearly vacant, those at the top of the org chart will understand that the reason why their PMO is dysfunctional is because the PMO administrator position is empty. When you present the illusion the PMO administrator position is filled, but abdicate your duty, the person at the top of the organizational chart is being misled. Necessary organizational change does not occur. A false sense of security permeates, but not forever. You can hide problems, but you can't hide problems forever. Number 4, a robot does not have an emotional component. The PMO administrator challenges to achieving superior execution. As previously stated, a ham-fisted ogre of a boss will never work. However, neither will apathy in the face of failing job performance. The art of the PMO administrator can be found in their ability to motivate and teach personnel in the manner each receiver best receives teaching. Note, this is an art to master, not a set of how-to rules to follow. As mentioned, there is no one-size-fits-all approach to employee and volunteer management. Each person and each problem calls for a tailored solution that in part appeals to the emotional component of the receiver and utilizes the power of persuasion within the PMO administrator. Whereas, for example, one person appreciates the direct, blunt, just tell me what you want approach, another person requires a softer, more circuitous interpersonal style. Fine. The PMO administrator must recognize the emotional dimension of each person before communicating with them, either in writing, telephone, or in person, and have the skill and the wisdom to adjust their approach to fit each receiver. This is the art of all administration. Number 5, a robot cannot lie, cheat, steal, or otherwise of its own accord act in an immoral or unethical manner. The PMO administrator challenges to achieving superior execution. Sooner or later, someone in a position of trust will disappoint you. What you must do after the fact is usually self-evident and driven by common sense and the circumstances of the event. However, this point is about prevention, about vigilance, about establishing or following existing prescribed protocols for handling money, credit cards, gift certificates, expense reports, password security, server protection, office supplies, lost and found items, etc., that reduce, if not eliminate, the opportunities to fail in the above manner. You must also anticipate here the most obvious pushback elephant in the room. I don't understand. What's wrong with the way we have always done things? Do you think we're crooks? Are you saying that we steal? And on and on. All you can do is explain yourself and your decision. You cannot control how some people may choose to spin your motive away from what it truly is, to be proactive and responsible administrators of resources, into something that it is not. You especially cannot be paralyzed by the fear of being misunderstood and choose to do nothing instead of the right thing. Not everyone is going to like you, so get used to it. Just remember, the storm comes before the rainbow. Number 6, robots will, without complaint of boredom, complete repetitive and mundane tasks. PMO administrator challenges to achieving superior execution. Rest assured, the more boring and repetitive a task, the more likely it is that task will eventually be executed poorly. It's a known truism. You don't want to buy a new car built on Friday afternoon. Why? Workers' minds are everywhere but on the task at hand. You can't change the nature of a boring task, but you can sometimes rotate tasks so the same person is not stuck with the same boring duty. Simple recognition of an issue will many times win you half the battle. Regardless of whether or not a task is boring or dynamic, the PMO administrator is ultimately responsible that every task is perfectly executed. Or not. You can focus on improving the execution or habitually clean up the messes created by careless execution and perpetually deal with the consequences and fallout. There is no free ride. Either you focus on perfect execution of all tasks, including the boring task, or you spend your time putting out preventable fires because your broken culture allows for poor execution without consequences. But note this well. A PMO pell-mell, helter-skelter, who cares working environment will eventually burn you out both emotionally and physically, and certainly will not help you spiritually. You will eventually grow weary of personally cleaning up after people who are too lazy or too indifferent or too careless, etc., to care about the quality of their execution, if they ever cared. Perhaps then you will recall this advisement. You don't have to enjoy confrontation, but sometimes you do have to confront someone. Number 7, a robot never needs work breaks, pregnancy or sick leave, ever-escalating vacation time, holiday breaks, salary increases, bonuses, rewards, and the like. To ensure constant uptime, preventative maintenance, in other words, adjustments and parts replacements, can be done on a robot during non-working hours. The PMO administrator challenges to achieving superior execution. PMO is 24/7, 365. Let that sink in. PMO is 24/7, 365. Everything PMO is your responsibility as the PMO administrator. It never stops being your responsibility, and as the saying goes, if it's not one thing, it's another. Translation? If it's not an unexpected employee absence for some reason, it's a pipe breaking in the middle of the night, or someone tripping over an uneven sidewalk, or vandalism, etc., etc. But no matter what it is, it will land on your desk unless you delegate. Delegation of work to competent and trained personnel is your best friend. Until you have installed a competent parish business manager, you will run yourself ragged. In this regard, do not necessarily equate having a competent business manager, or lack thereof, with money and parish cash flow. I was a parish business manager full-time for 5 years for free. Competent people can be found to work in his vineyard, but only if you proactively seek them out. This person may live outside your parish, but so what? Geography is not a deal breaker. The pastor was the PMO administrator where I worked. In light of what you have learned in this book so far, do you think he was receptive to having me literally knock on his door and offer my services to the parish just before remodeling our 1950s construction-era asbestos-laden church interior? Yes, God will provide, but you also need to do your part. You need to be open to the idea of searching for a parish business manager. You need to advertise the position and so forth, or not. It's your call. But if you do not delegate, you will burn yourself out. The catch? You cannot delegate until you have competent and trained people under you. It is a holistic system. One piece depends upon another. Number 8, robots lend unsurpassed accuracy and precision to their work product. The accuracy and precision leads to less waste, nearly zero mistakes, and lower cost. PMO administrator challenges to achieving superior execution. The accuracy and quality of the work product produced by those who report to you is ultimately your responsibility. However, over time, your level of oversight can be substantially reduced if you have installed the proper PMO culture. The proper PMO culture inherently lends itself to fostering superior PMO execution. Employees and volunteers will automatically self-check and self-correct their work if working under the proper culture. Why? Because just like every human cell, they obey the culture's DNA. Indeed, they relish this culture. They are a living part of the culture, a culture that by design can only endorse superior execution. Everyone who reports to you will come to know and understand this truth about execution, but only if the culture fosters this understanding. Note this well. If you do not already, you will come to know it takes no more time to do a superior job in P&O as it does to do a mediocre job. So why not do a superior job in the first place? This is not only the essence of the culture. When properly implemented, it is a time lifesaver for the PMO administrator. Your best friend at work is the proper PMO culture. Number 9, robots will never sue you. PMO administrator challenges to achieving superior execution. There is a process to hiring, there is a process to firing, and there is an art and science to both. In general, you must follow the hiring and firing process science as ultimately dictated to you by diocese policy. That said, you must also be wise and be aware of certain realities when it comes to hiring and firing in order to minimize the risk of litigation. However, it is paramount that you do not allow the fear of litigation to paralyze you into inaction, into accepting mediocrity. This topic will be further discussed in the chapters on hiring and firing. Number 10. Robots are expendable. They can perform dangerous tasks, work with dangerous ingredients, and lift heavy loads. PMO administrator challenges to achieving superior execution. There are ways to get hurt in a parish. Everything from falling off a ladder to slipping on a wet floor to being hit by a speeding car in the parking lot. As a PMO administrator, you should walk every inch of the grounds and buildings with a hazard-specific safety specialist, with an eye toward removing or mitigating all safety hazards. You should ensure all employees and volunteers know who to contact in case of an emergency, no matter the time of day, holiday, vacation schedule, etc. There are no guarantees, but if you minimize your risk profile, you have minimized the potential for future problems and potential litigation.
We hope you enjoyed the program and will join us back for another show on WCAT Radio. This is Sebastian Mahfood. Good day.